How's it going, everybody? Brett Hill here from Five Tool Sport Talk, and you can catch me every Monday, 4 to 5 on Chicagoland Sports Radio, and also on Spreaker. I upload every episode on Tuesdays, usually in the morning, around 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock or so is when I'll upload it, so you can catch that. It's a sports talk show and everything. So we're going to call this little thing what you missed yesterday. We're going to recap. There's a segment I like to do. I like to do power rankings on my show with the NFL, and obviously with the season kind of drawn to a close. But I've been doing power rankings since the show started. I think we're on our fourth edition of them. So without further ado, let's do the Five Tool Sport Talk power rankings that you might have missed yesterday. So we'll start with number 10. I had the Dallas Cowboys. They're at 7-5. They're playing really well right now. They have a 4-game winning streak, and they've been doing it a lot with defense. They beat what I thought a lot of people thought probably was the unbeatable, was the knocking off the New Orleans Saints on Thursday. They knocked them off 13-10. Like I mentioned, they have a 4-game winning streak. Been doing it with defense. They're fifth in football for yards against a game, averaging just a little over 300 yards against. And it seems like a lot, but with how the NFL is nowadays, it's so offensive oriented that if you're not giving up 350 yards, you're probably a top defense. They're fifth in that. Huge stat here. They're second in points against in the league. They're just averaging below 20 points scored against them a game at around 18.6. Fourth in rushing yards against. They have a really stud middle linebacker that they got out of Boise State that could be the defensive rookie of the year over there in Dallas. Seventh in yards against, or passing yards per game, and that's probably one of the more important stats because, I just mentioned how football's so offensive oriented and it's so pass happy now with how all these quarterbacks are. To only be giving up just under 230 yards a game through the air is really impressive. And then, of course, you have one of the best running backs in football, if not the best. It can be argued, of course. Ezekiel Elliott, he's second in rushing. He's there's only two rushing halfbacks in football that have over 1,000 yards, and Ezekiel Elliott's one of them. Obviously, the other one being Todd Gurley over in LA. Number 9, another hot team, the Seattle Seahawks, who have probably exceeded expectations that they have this season. We know that they broke up their defense, the Legion of Boom, everyone's know about. We know Sherman went to San Francisco and everything, and now they've won 3 in a row, knocking off the aforementioned Richard Sherman's team. The 49ers dominated them 43-16 over there in Seattle. And the more important stat, Russell Wilson has not thrown an interception in the past 4 games. He's thrown 11 touchdowns, 0 picks. Big reason why Seattle is in the playoff hunt with a huge game looming on Monday against the Vikings, a couple of teams fighting for wild card positioning over there in the NFC. At number 8, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, man, they've had bad losses the past 2 weeks. They lost to the Broncos on the road. Not an easy game, but a game they should win with the kind of offense that they have. And, of course, falling apart against the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. And a crazy stat that I saw looking things up, the Steelers entered the game with a 174-0-1 record when they had a 16-point lead at any point at home. Any point. 16-point lead. It could be in the first quarter. It could be in the fourth quarter. They never lost at home until this past Sunday against the Chargers, where they just completely dominated them in the second half. And it's just weird to think that it was a tale of two halves. Pittsburgh played extremely well in the first half. Led them comfortably at halftime. And then the second half, the Chargers just practically flipped the switch and completely turned that game upside down. I was able to pick up a huge win in Pittsburgh. And on top of that, Pittsburgh now, without their halfback James Conner possibly for extended time for a leg contusion, even though it looked a lot worse as the game went on, or as it happened during the game. Number 7, the hometown team. I got the Chicago Bears. Really tough loss against the Giants this past Sunday. Real interesting game. Really interesting game. They scored 10 points in the final minute and 13 to force overtime. Of course, you saw the trick play with Tariq Cohen throwing the touchdown pass to Anthony Miller. What can Tariq Cohen do? The dude is electric. Whether he has a ball, when the ball is in his hands, he's just absolutely electric. Whether it's making moves or making moves in the open field or throwing for touchdown passes, apparently to force overtime. But tough loss. I mean, I know Trubisky didn't play. Chase Daniel really struggled. I said on the show how it seems like, I don't know why Chase Daniel seems to not want to throw the ball away, but he doesn't. His pocket presence seems a little shaky. And I said, it's not exactly time to press the panic button if you're a Bear fan, but if Trubisky doesn't play this Sunday against the Rams, then it could be a little time to start sweating in terms of his health and how this team's success could go from here on out towards the playoffs and hopefully a division title on top of that. 6, I have them probably too low, but it is what it is with me. I have the Patriots at 9-3, knocked off the Vikings 24-10 late Sunday afternoon. They're 8-1 their last 9. They've given up less than 20 points for their last 5 games. Ninth in points against. I know it's not a team you think that's defensive oriented because it's a team that tended to give up a lot of points. We saw it in the Super Bowl, the past couple Super Bowls they've been in against the Seahawks, the Eagles. But this kind of surprised me. They're like middle of the pack, lower half or so in defense in both rushing and passing, but they're top 10 in terms of points against that they give up each game. And it's kind of surprising. That surprised me the most. It's a team that you don't really think that is a defensive oriented team, but here they are with a top 10 scoring defense. So they give up yards, but they bend but don't break, and that's what's important over there in the NFL. Number 5, a team that I probably did not give a lot of credit to a couple weeks ago when I initially did the rankings. I do have the Chargers at number 5 now. I remember I had them in the lower half before because they really did beat a lot of great teams in my opinion, but I have them top 5 now. They're 8-1 their last 9. They're doing it on both sides of the ball. They're top 10 in just about every offensive stat and defensive stat as well. The only stat that they're not in the top 10 in, they're 11th, is rushing yards against, just as it's just a little above 100 yards a game. But the Chargers have been a huge surprise to me. I mean, I didn't expect them to be 9-3 at this point. We are so used to Philip Rivers led teams over there in San Diego and LA to be extremely slow out of the gates, but then to pick things up in the second half of the season, mostly in December. And as the Chargers social media tweeted out on Sunday, this is Rivers' time now. This is Rivers' time. For some reason he is just plays really well in December, and now that they have a 9-3 record, you can almost expect them to win out the rest of the season, maybe, or maybe go or at least pick up at least get 11 wins at the very least, with about 4 games remaining on their schedule. But with how sports are, I mean, for all we know, it might flip-flop to where they have a hot start and completely fall on their face the rest of the season. And pretty hard luck too, because to be 9-3 and to be a game back, to not even be in first place in your own division, that just goes to show how good that the Kansas City Chiefs are, which we'll get to here in a matter of moments. Number 4, I got the Houston Texans. This is a team I always have a huge crush on. I love Deshaun Watson. I like that offense. I like their offense with DeAndre Hopkins, Demaryius Thomas, Lamar Miller, who at times could be pretty dependable. First team ever to have this kind of a winning streak after starting the season 0-3. They won their last 9, and their defense is just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Just crazy things I've seen on them. 6 times they've held the team below 20 points. They've won every time in each of those games. Even more crazy, 15.9 points against their last 8 games. And then the last crazy thing was the Colts are the only team to score more than 23 points against them. Just think about that. We're 12 games into the NFL season, and the Indianapolis Colts are the only team that have scored more than 23 points against the Houston Texans. And that was a game that I believe they won as well. So Texans are on fire right now. I really like them out there in the AFC. Going to cruise to the AFC South. The Colts completely have fell off after that terrible loss against the Jags, and the Titans are just way too inconsistent for my liking to even get a chance at getting that division over there in the AFC South. Top 3, it's pretty much been the same. It's been the same for the past couple of weeks. I do have the Kansas City Chiefs 10-2. A little bit of a fight against the bad Raiders team, but always when it comes to huge rivalry games, anything could go. As I like to say, throw the record books out when these two teams face. But Pat Mahomes, perhaps the first, perhaps a obvious MVP candidate, front runner, could be argued. Not my front runner, in my opinion. I'll get to mine in a matter of moments when we go finish off this top 10. But Pat Mahomes, what more I could say? He's second in passing. He's first in touchdown passes. He's thrown 10 picks. I know he's thrown more turnovers, obviously. His timer now, but there's a timer. He didn't even throw a turnover about the first quarter of the season. 2,000-yard receivers in Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And in the top scoring offense in football now. They average 37 points a game. It's just crazy to think as they upended the Saints, who have been the top scoring team for the past couple weeks now. But obviously with the Saints just being held at 10 points, that's going to drive down their average. And the Chiefs just continuing to throw out massive offensive numbers. It's just a matter of, can that defense do just enough? And so far it has, as they stand at 10-2. So in the NFL, man, your best defense is a good offense. Number 2, the LA Rams. And I know what you're thinking. how could you have a team that just lost in the New Orleans Saints be number one? I still think the Saints are the class of the NFL. So still, obviously, being the only one loss that the Rams have, they knocked off the Lions 30-16. Showing signs of greatest show on turf, man. I mean, they have fantastic receivers in Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, and of course, you got Todd Gurley, who is also one of a top MVP candidate over there. But I think he kind of fell off a little bit with the kind of numbers that Pat Mahomes is putting up, and in my opinion, my top guy being Drew Brees, who I'll touch on in a matter of seconds. But greatest show, it's the greatest show on turf reborn. I mean, it's good to see them to be successful now since they moved back to LA. It was met with a lot of friction, but the success is completely taken off, and they're one of the best teams in football, if not the best team. But not in my opinion, because obviously the number one team I have in the NFL is, of course, the New Orleans Saints, 10-2. I know they lost this past week to the Cowboys, 13-10, but they do it on. They are a extremely well balanced offense right now. They both, of course, with Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram over there at halfback. Kamara being your big yardage halfback, catching passes as well. Ingram being your black and blue bruiser that can run between the tackles and get the touchdowns inside the goal line and everything. And the MVP candidate, man, Drew Brees. I don't know how he's doing it with the kind of receivers he's got. Michael Thomas, well over 1,000 yards, not even close in terms of how many times Brees targets him. But that's my opinion. Drew Brees is the top MVP candidate for me, just because he has been throwing next to nobody on his team outside of Michael Thomas and Kamara. But Kamara being a halfback, outside of Thomas being the number one receiver, who's he got? I mean, it's phenomenal what he's done, especially with the completion percentage he has. He's far and away the top completion percent, top in the NFL in completion percentage at 75%, which is crazy to think. I know he's throwing passes a lot, I know, but now that the offense has been a lot more balanced, he hasn't had to throw a lot, and it's shown. He's thrown 30 touchdowns. He's only thrown 3 interceptions this season. He's averaged around between 12 and 14 interceptions a season in his career. But to me, far and away, top guy in the MVP discussion for me right now is just on the sheer amount of who he's throwing to outside of his top receiver for that matter. But so yeah, that's my power rankings. So you can definitely listen to that and more every Monday 4 to 5 on Chicagoland Sports Radio with Five Tool Sport Talk. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at IMS_Brett. You can find me on Facebook as well at Brett Nicholas Hill, and of course, Five Tool Sport Talk has a Facebook page as well, so be sure to like that and interact. I love interacting with everybody. So tell me when I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot, of course, and tell me other things I should possibly talk about. But for now, that's definitely what you missed over there on Five Tool Sport Talk. And with that being said, I'm Brett Hill. Have a good one, everyone.